But this also addresses how you deal with the physicians who say, I don't want to meet with you. I don't have time to meet with you, or I don't want to meet with you. So when I started my solo practice, I've experienced all level of practice. My first year and a half, I worked for a large group of 3 other chiropractors, and I was the new associate. I only stayed a year and a half and decided I wanted to open my own practice. So I was then 6 years in my own office as a solo practitioner with 2 part-time staff members. And I decided that the way I was going to develop relationship with the 2 primary care physicians who were in this small town I was practicing in was every new patient, whether they referred the patient to me or not, if I learned from collecting my demographic information from the patient, that was their primary care physician, I sent a 1-page narrative. Here's what I found. Here's what I have diagnosed. Here's what I'm going to do, just on 1 page. And I sent that report to the primary care doc. They didn't ask for it. They didn't refer the patient to me. I just sent that to them. So I started doing this, and maybe a few months into doing this, I happened to be at a conference at the local medical society. They didn't invite me. I figured I would just go and stick my face in, and I knew someone in there, and he knew the primary care physician who was in my town, and he happened to be sitting in the row of seats in front of me. So he said, "Oh, John, I've got to introduce you to this physician because you guys are in the same town." And he's an older doc. And so he turns around, and I said, "Oh, very nice to meet you. I'm John Ventura. I'm the chiropractor in your town." And he's got these reading glasses on. So you can get an image of this gray-haired doc looking up over his reading glasses at me with a bit of a scowl on his face. And he says, "Oh, the chiropractor in town." And he said to me almost verbatim, "You know what I do with those reports you send to me? I throw them in the garbage." And that was his introduction to me. This was the first time I met this physician. And mind you, this was back in the 1980s, but that was his response. And I said, "You're free to do that." I said, "I think the primary care physician really ought to know what other providers their patients are seeing. And that's why I send them to you." And he turned around and didn't say another word to me. I did not stop sending him reports. I continued to send him reports, and I wish I could tell you the time frame that the change occurred. But sometime after that, and it wasn't the next week or two, it was a considerable period of time, he started referring patients to me. And initially, they were train wrecks. They were patients that he had already sent everywhere else, and he just didn't know what else to do with. And he felt, how bad could it be to send them to this chiropractor? Then he started sending me fairly complex patients. And I remember me seeing a patient of his one time. He didn't refer the patient, and something wasn't right with what we had found. It just looked very atypical. It was actually a patient with shoulder pain. I sent him for a plain film imaging study, which picked up a fairly large tumor in the humerus, the proximal humerus. And I immediately sent him over to the primary care physician, and with the imaging study and my short report, and he called me up and he thanked me. And not only thanked me for that patient, but thanked me for the care I was giving other patients. So that's how dramatically that can change with a physician.